Hi there, and welcome to the Accepted Authority podcast. My name is Greg Roworth, and each week on the Accepted Authority podcast, I'm your host, where we discuss the challenges of growing a successful consultancy practice. And particularly, our focus is on how to position yourself as the authority in your market, because that is the prime method of achieving good quality client acquisition that happens consistently and predictably. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to focus on the speed of getting clients. And I want to title this The Need for Speed. Now, there's obviously, if you're aware of it, the movie Top Gun is famous for this quote where Maverick is going out to on a flight, and he says, "I have a need for speed." Now, that might be okay when you're flying jets that can break the sound barrier. When you're a fighter pilot and you're using those jets to get to where you want to go, you want to get there quickly and you want to get out of the way of any potential enemies range pretty quickly there. So having a need for speed is very appropriate in that setting. But what I find is that for many consultants, when we approach the sales process and the thought of client acquisition, we also tend to have a need for speed. We want that to happen quickly. And often that comes about because of our operating process where, as I've referred to in previous episodes, being a victim of the sales roller coaster where your focus on sales and marketing when you need clients gets results and brings in more work. But then your focus turns to how do we deliver this work that we now have? And the pressure of meeting deadlines and deliveries means that your focus moves from doing the work or doing this, getting in the sales, to doing the work. Now, when that cycle starts to go down the other side, when you're doing the work and the work is being completed and you're looking then at where's our next lot of work coming from, the focus then turns to how do we get more sales? And we want those sales quickly. So we end up in this self-determining cycle of highs and lows where we're busy one month and quiet the next, perhaps, because we are not approaching our sales and marketing activities consistently and predictably. Now, it should be obvious, but if we want sales to be coming in consistently and predictably, we should be focusing on our sales and marketing activities consistently and predictably. If we're haphazard, if we're up and down with our sales activities, then our sales results are going to reflect that. And that's what happens and why, not only in that situation, but in many situations where we're getting referrals, perhaps, or getting opportunities for new sales, we want it quickly. We have that need for speed. That need for speed jumps in, and that dictates how we deal with that inquiry. It determines the way that we approach our clients. And one of the things that I've seen particularly, that happens to us in a way that is quite a natural response to what happens when we get an inquiry, but it's actually not working for us in the way we think it might. And our need for speed and our perhaps impression that the client has a need for speed creates this pressure to get the sale done quickly. We want to respond quickly. We all know that clients want fast response, so we tend to give fast response, and we get out to deal with their inquiry quickly, thinking that that's a good thing. But then what happens is that we are put under pressure to get our proposal done quickly, to get the sale quickly. We want that sale to happen quickly. And what we don't realize when we put ourselves under that pressure is that it undermines our authority. When we are dealing with our clients' inquiries and their need for speed, we're actually subjecting ourselves to their control. They start to control the sales process, and we're out of control. We have no authority left when we start to be under the control of our clients. And that's the first thing that goes wrong in that situation. Our need for speed undermines our authority because we're trying to deliver what we think the client wants. And in one way, that's a good thing. We want to be able to deliver what the client wants, but all too often, the client really, or what they think they want and what they really need are two different things. Now, if we approach them on the basis of what they want and just give them what they want, if we follow their lead and we're under their control, where they're asking us for a proposal to do a certain sort of project or a certain type of work, or provide a specific type of service that they're asking for, we are really letting go of our control and just becoming the servant and letting them be the master. So what do we do instead if that need for speed is what is creating issues and problems? And the typical problems that it creates is, first of all, it creates a pressure to get proposals done, which means that we don't have the time to do our best work on the proposal. It also creates a pressure that keeps our prices down because we are not positioned as the authority in that situation. And it creates a pressure to just give the client what they think they want instead of giving them what they really need. And our sales process needs to be able to be slowed down to allow for that factor. And this is the biggest challenge for most consultants, with that need for speed, both on their hand and on the hand of their clients. If we just comply with that need for speed, we really won't get the results that we're capable of achieving if we would just be the authority in the situation. And when I say be the authority, that means not bending to the pressure and the control that your potential client is putting you under. It means don't look like you're desperate for the work. And that's the other aspect of the need for speed, is that when we're quick to respond and we're really just following the control that the client has over the situation, and we're not doing anything differently, we think we're pleasing our client, but really what we're doing is undermining our authority. And authority is not about giving the client what they want. It's about making sure you give the client what they really need. And that's why we need to slow down the process. We need to step back from the pressure that the client is implying in the process. And that doesn't mean we don't respond quickly. We do need to respond quickly, but we need to respond in an authoritative manner. And now, again, that doesn't mean we don't go and see the client quickly, or we don't get on a face-to-face meeting over Zoom quickly. But what it does mean is that we need to run our process, not the client's process. So when the client is initiating contact with us, say initiating an inquiry, they want us to respond to their request for a proposal we need to create our own sales methodology in a way that establishes our authority, maintains our authority, and allows us to assert our authority at each step of the process. So that means, is the client really in the position to allow us to do our best work? We need to, first of all, create that foundation before we even bother to go and work with that client. If we are not being allowed by our client to do the work that we know is what they need rather than what they think they want, and there's often a major discrepancy between those two things. If we are just giving the client what they think they want without, first of all, establishing our authority in the process to enable us to provide them what they really need, we're just undermining our authority and stepping back from our responsibility. Now, a lot of you will have heard the saying, and it comes from a sales situation, of sell them what they want, but give them what they need. Now, that might sound great in theory, but when we sell them what they want, but then have to give them what they need, often we start to go way beyond the scope of that initial contract. And it could be interpreted by our client as a bait and switch maneuver. We're selling them one thing, but when we get in there, we start to look at what's going on, and then we say, no, well, really, you need much more. To me, that is not really ethical, and it potentially, again, undermines your authority, because you start to look like the bad guy. You start to look like the sort of consultants who are using the client's watch to tell them the time. It's in that sort of situation where it creates a bad feeling. There's a disturbance in the relationship with your client when you start to argue about the need for what you have signed up for and start to give them something different and usually more expensive. So my positioning on that is you want to sort that out before you commit your clients to working with you. When you can show them what they really need instead of what they thought they wanted before you sign any agreements with them about the work that you're going to do, there's a much better, stronger relationship established with your clients where they're willing to trust you, willing to accept what you want to say and do further down the track when you're working with those clients, because you've shown that you're willing to risk the sale for their good, for their benefit. When you've slowed down that sales process to say, hey, before we give you what you want, let's do a few tests. Let's run a few things by you just to make sure we're on the right pathway here. And if that discovery process uncovers a different need than they thought they needed, if they a different problem perhaps than they thought they wanted to solve, then the level of authority and trust that you establish with that client goes through the roof. It's astronomical in its power when the client knows that you're working for their benefit and risking the potential of a sale. Now, a risk here is you may lose some sales. Yes, that can happen, but that's why your need for speed is going to get you in more trouble ultimately when you give the clients what they think they want and then it doesn't really work out for them the way they wanted. When you don't solve the right problem for your clients and just give them what they want, you will have asked them to pay money for your services and leave them dissatisfied. And you all know what happens to your reputation when that's what happens. So it's much better to lose a few sales at the front end and have better, more satisfied clients at the end where you've done the work and they're satisfied, they paid the money happily to you because they've got the result that they were really looking for. When you just give them what they want with that need for speed, they often end up dissatisfied, unfulfilled, and somewhat angry at times about the quality of service that you've provided, even if you've given them exactly what they asked for. This is the danger of that need for speed, the need for getting back to your client, giving them what they want. It typically does not live up to the expectations of the client. It doesn't live up to your expectations to start with, because you know that you're not really doing the best work that you could do because you're limited and hamstrung by what you've signed up for. But the client on the other end doesn't get what they really need, therefore they will not be happy. They will look at it and say, you've sold us a pup here. You've sold us something that's just taken our money and not really given us a result. I'm sure you're not in business for that. I'm sure you've got more integrity than that. But perhaps you don't have the skill in the sales and marketing process to stand up to that power and control that quite authoritative clients will exert on you. And that's the challenge for us a lot of the time. Being a consultant, particularly in a business setting, we have clients who are in powerful positions. They're used to having command. They're used to having their wishes followed. They're used to setting the tone. They're used to telling other people what they want them to do. So when we confront a character like that, it's often difficult to stand up and be the authority. We get steamrolled by their power and their presence. We have charismatic people, charismatic leaders that we have to say, hold on, in this situation, I'm the authority. Let me check that we are solving the right problem before I commit to doing work with you. If you don't give me the time and the power to do that, then I don't think we can work with you. Having that willingness to stop the sales process, to slow it down, to allow you to do your best work is ultimately going to be better off in the long run. Even if at times you might meet a client who doesn't agree with you and wants to do it their way, I think you're better off letting that client go and work with somebody else and go and find a better quality client who allows you to do your best work. So that's where I want to wrap it up for today. This has been about the need for speed, which is really a very ineffective need. You want to get away from having that need for speed. You want to be the authority that does things at your pace, that helps your client to see the value of you doing your best work and being allowed to do your best work by slowing down the process, by following your methodology to get the sale, to ensure that what you're actually selling your client is what they really need. If you want to know more about that or would like to talk to me specifically, then go to my website at businessflightpath.com and get more information about the process. The strategic authority marketing process is what I recommend talking about at first. There's a free ebook to download there, or reach out to me and ask for a no obligation conversation. I'll be happy to speak to you if you're looking to improve your ability to get better quality clients who allow you to do your best work. If you want more information as well, then look for me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm producing plenty of content there. We have a group for consultants and advisors that I'd like to invite you to join as well if you connect with me on either of those platforms. So I urge you to continue your education to learn more about how you can be the authority, how you can be the accepted authority in your market so that sales start to come more easily, more consistently, and more predictably with premium level clients that allow you to do your best work. I'm sure your life and your financial results will improve because of that. That's it for today. This has been Greg Roworth with the Accepted Authority podcast. Over and out.